this video is for my warm-up flexibility page, which I use in my private studio. And so it's one of the first things I have all my students work on and spend a lot of time on, because flexibility on a brass instrument is kind of one of the top things to be working on and to really solidify, one of the top skills to solidify, excuse me. This exercise I adapted from a couple of different exercises from the Max Schlossberg book. If you can see that, I'm not sure if that's fuzzy or not. And so I wouldn't recommend this book for beginners, but definitely advanced high school and college level students, primarily because it gets really challenging really fast. So, but the exercises that I made are great for beginners because we're just kind of working through the partials. What a partial is when you're playing multiple notes with the same fingering. So if I'm playing, something without a valve pushed down and then changing the note without pushing down any valves, that's called a partial. And so as we go through this, what's going to happen is I will just go through a quick explanation of this page. And then after that, I will play through the whole entire warm-up flexibility page, front and back. So what's one of the most important things when we're practicing is that we're sitting up straight. Good posture means we'll likely have a good sound. And so that way we're sitting up straight like this. You can see that, not slouch like this. To kind of chest up a little bit. And then breathing, which, this sort of goes all into the same thing, like breathing and good posture. Just like, say, for sports, sports athletes of any sport are usually like they're engaged. They're not slouched or anything like that. So, so breathing and posture is super crucial. Breathing from the diaphragm, from down here. Let's keep the shoulders relaxed. They might rise at the top of the breath. And so, but there's other videos that I may make or ones online that talk about breathing, so I won't do that here. What I will do is play this in time, so that way students can either just hear it with correct rhythms or how it should be played, not too fast. And if they would like, they can also play along with me too. So that's part of the goal too. And so what you'll see here is there's two half notes followed by a whole note and then a rest. So the rests are important because you want to rest your chops, especially if you were to play this whole entire page front and back, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend. It's kind of like a stepwise process, but you want to make sure that you're resting as much as you play. And then lastly, as you're working on higher notes on this page and just in general, there's a thing called tongue level. So as we're speaking, we might say the syllables or the words ta-yi. So it kind of closes the jaw somewhat to help to get those higher partial notes. That with, of course, breath support and just, a whole handful of other concepts in place to get those notes. But that's kind of like the general concept. These are things that I go through in my lessons a little bit more thoroughly. So I will now begin warm-up flexibility front and back. And lastly, the metronome should be set to about 70 to 90. Mine will be right in the middle at 80. Okay, I'm going to get the page out. We're going to start with the first exercise, letter A. And I will count us off. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Couple important things to think about is as you're breathing in and breathing out, what you can do during the rest is breathe out for two beats after playing a 2-measure segment, and then breathe in for 2 beats. So you would hold the note, release, and then blow out, and then into. And it helps us to kind of breathe in time. So that way, when we play music, we're just more used to playing music, breathing in time, breathing and playing. So that, and then also, I think that's it. So I will now continue with exercise B. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. It's important that as you're playing through this to make sure that we're not playing it too loud. So I would recommend mezzo piano or mezzo forte, just going for a nice full sound for each note. And sometimes I'm using a breath attack actually, so I'm just kind of like breathing in and then letting the air come out naturally, and then versus trying to so trying to relieve tension as much as possible. All right, continuing on with exercise C. 1, 2, 3. D. 1, 2, 3. E. 1, 2, 3. exercise, letter F. 1, 2, 3. For those who might struggle with that one, what I would recommend is working through it going backwards. So starting with the 1, 2, 3 theory, and then going up chromatically from there. That way you can kind of help to develop and build breath support. And it helps you by going up stepwise, right? Actually, technically half stepwise, right? So if that one's a struggle for you, play through it going backwards. I will now continue with the next exercise. Exercise G. 1, 2, 3. Here is the final exercise. This one is letter H, and it combines all of the previously learned and practiced exercises. So we're kind of going through full 1 octave and a fifth. So what we have to do is kind of keep ourselves and our body relaxed. Focus on blowing the air and the sound further forward versus thinking up and down. And then definitely thinking ta, ya, ya. So as we go down, we think ah, and as we go up, we think e. Lastly, on those previous 2 exercises, as mentioned before, if you need to play through those backwards to gain strength and support to get those higher notes, that is what you should do, is work on them backwards. And to sort of build range from that, play through them backwards and then hold the top note as long as you can. Say if I were to, so next, now I would like to play letter H. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. Two and three. 1, 2, 3. One and three. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. Just some final thoughts and comments on this. The last exercise is challenging, especially if we're relatively new at playing the trumpet. It requires a lot of breath support and a lot of diaphragm strength, which is kind of the same thing. But what you should do is, if the ultimate goal is to play through it no faster than that, really, because then it turns into a different type of flexibility exercise, I believe. But what you should do is work on it in chunks. And the ultimate goal is to play through the whole thing in one breath. So if you can't do that yet, work toward 1 measure to 2 measures to 3 measures to 4 measures at a time. Just work through it step by step. And then the more that you do this, the better that it gets. I've been playing these similar exercises for probably over 20 years now. And I still refer back to them. And they really just help to develop flexibility on this piece of metal right here. Right? This thing will sometimes be our friend, but sometimes not be our friend. So I hope you enjoyed the warm-up flexibility run-through of me playing through it. And if you have any questions, you may feel free to contact me. My students can contact me. Hopefully you use this to practice along with. You don't have to play through the whole thing at one time. You can kind of skip around. And lastly, if you're interested in lessons, feel free to contact me at Russell Zimmer Trumpet at gmail.com. That's 2 S's and 2 L's and 2 M's. All right, I hope you enjoyed Warm Up Flexibility. Thanks. Bye.